Hello, pageant friends. This is Meg Bertle Brown, your host of the All Things Pageantry podcast. And today we have Morgan Mohler, the current Miss Midwest 2025. Welcome, Morgan. How are you? Yeah, I know. I've really enjoyed this cooler weather in Texas where I live in the southeast part of Texas, right off the Gulf Coast, so it's very humid. And so I'm enjoying the cooler days and yeah, so I totally agree. So, okay, so your title, Miss Midwest 2025. What system does that lead into, and how did you get involved in that system?
that this is something maybe I should look into. And so I did the normal thing that girls do. I Instagram stalked the page and I found that a student on my campus had actually won the title. So this opportunity was literally right in front of me. The competition was on campus. I saw the girl around campus who had won. So I set up a one-on-one meeting with her and I really got the lowdown on the whole pageant world. I was definitely of the stereotype that girly girls do pageants, and it wasn't probably for me as someone who likes to be outside and get down and dirty in a softball field and that kind of thing. But I found that it's a lot more community service based. So that really piqued my interest. But then, of course, COVID hit. So then we had to take a year off of pageants. But then in 2021, I signed up for that competition and I really started understanding what it was all about. And I created my initiative, Living Life Limitless, where you can strive to success through adversity. And that's really what got the ball rolling for me. And I competed through an entire season without winning. I had to watch the state competition without actually being there, even though I wanted to so badly. It just wasn't my time yet. So then I had finally won my first title in January of 2023, and then another title in 24, and now I am Miss Midwest. So this is my third title within the organization, and I could not be happier with where I am now.
So, I was telling my previous guest that I was when I was a teen, I did Miss York County, which was the lead up to Miss Pennsylvania America, and I think Miss America is one of my um, favorite pageants. It really, I feel to me, it's always really showcased the women that are not just beautiful in a general sense, but that they're smart, they're go getters. They're high achievers and they are, in a good sense, relentless because they know what they want and they will, continue to strive to achieve their goals.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So when is this upcoming pageant? When is the Miss Minnesota pageant?
Miss Minnesota will be in the middle of June. The finals night is on June 20th. So 2 days before my birthday. It's super
Oh,
fun having a June birthday and then having the state pageant just around that time because yeah, it's just two things to celebrate in one. It's a very,
yeah.
very big month for me.
Yeah. Awesome. So you've got several months to prepare and get organized, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I won Miss Midwest at the very beginning of August, and I had always gone for a title in January, so I had about 5 months to prepare for Miss Minnesota, but all the paperwork and everything was due earlier than that, so it was very much a crunch time. So now having a title in August and having all of this time, all of these months is definitely a learning curve because at first I was like, I need to get everything done, and I was really sprinting and running, and then I realized I still have 8 months left of this reign. So now I'm just kind of sitting back, doing what I can to serve and really learn more about myself and this process and being a title holder and just enjoying that because I know this is also my last year.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, like you said, it's you have so many months to prepare, but you don't want to get
Yeah.
all, hurried and rushed, but you don't
Mhm.
want to like be like, oh, I can do that later. So definitely
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a
It's a
journey of
marathon.
balancing. Yes, exactly. Exactly. You got to pace yourself, and I think taking the opportunity to learn more about yourself, I think that
Mhm.
is such a great way to go, because not just for yourself as a young adult. I'm assuming you're a young adult as a young
Yeah.
adult, but also in the pageant tour, because you really need to know who you are. Um, in order for the judges to see you and really say, oh yeah, I want her to represent the state of
Yeah.
Minnesota.
Mhm.
So we were just talking briefly about the photo that you sent in for your headshot, which I love because it's on stage and you are doing a science experiment or something similar to that. Tell us kind of what you were doing in that photo.
Yes, so my talent is what I like to call an inspiration demonstration, because rather than just calling it a her story where you would just assume someone's talking, I'm also doing a science demonstration, but it's not just a science demonstration where I'm talking about what I'm doing with these chemicals. So I kind of intermingle the two to call it an inspiration demonstration, where I tell a story of my life. When I was in college my freshman year, I had a 2 month span of just adversity being thrown at me. I lost both of my grandparents to Alzheimer's and dementia. And I also had a cousin who was killed in a drunk driving accident. And then I was also hit in the face with a softball. So I had a concussion going on while trying to study organic chemistry. And so I had all of these things in my life try to knock me down, all these things that I couldn't control either, because you can't control when your grandparents are going to go or when other things are going to happen in your life. But I learned that you can control how you react and how you move forward. So in that inspiration demonstration, I talk about the adversity that I faced, but then how I was able to progress and still see success now as an adult in a career that I love, that being the sciences. So the science demonstration is very much more than just the chemicals and the nerdy side of who I am, but how I got there too.
Wow. That's such a great visual demonstration of adversity and getting through everything. So this goes in hand with your platform. And you said it was living limit. No, it's limitless.
Limitless. Yeah.
Um, can you tell us about that platform? And I think you kind of already mentioned how it kind of started. But tell me what you're doing now, and what are some of your goals that you would like to do in the future?
So, Living Life Limitless was really born from me going through all those different things, but then also realizing that I have a choice to make. When I was in college, I realized that I wasn't doing well in school. I was always the straight A student, the perfectionist, the typical Miss America girl that you were just describing who's relentless. And so I decided that there are other people like me in those situations where they had a choice to make, whether they were going to, suffer with anxiety like I had and stay in my room and give up all my hobbies because it was easier, or fight back and get the help that you needed in order to get your life back on track. So it's really that fork in the road that I wanted to bring some light to through the Miss America opportunity. So Living Life Limitless, life is actually an acronym that is the perfect road to success. It's learning how to overcome your limitations, imagining your biggest dreams, focusing on specific goals, and earning success. So through that 4-step process, you can go through any circumstance and achieve any goal. And so the different things that I do with this is create resources. I have a podcast of my own that I have so that people can use that as an outlet if they need some inspiration, learn from the lessons that I've gone through. And then I also have a journal. So if you are more interested in journaling, planning out your life, that's something that you can use. But then also my social media is just an outlet as well, where I share things that I'm going through, the things that I'm passionate about, but I also have my resources all right there too. So it's very interactive. It's broad in a sense where I didn't want to be pigeonholed into something like science or Alzheimer's disease or even just mentorship itself. I wanted to be able to bring more to this category of passion and purpose. And so that's where that is. I'm working on more partnerships too. So I work a lot with Big Brothers Big Sisters where that mentorship comes in handy. But I do a lot of community service too. So I can reach different groups of people and really just share the message, because this is all about communication and working together and listening to people's stories.
Yeah. You know, I feel like there's so many people who do have a story to share, and definitely there are lessons in that story that others can learn from. And it's sometimes hard to find outlets to share, vocalize that story so people can hear. So, I think what you're doing with your platform is so needed and so important, because you do. I mean, you do want to have people visualize what they can do, even though they think that, even though that they were like, I don't know if I can, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know where to start. But just having that dream, having that visualization of you or whoever, receiving this or getting what they wanted is such a first start, and really
It's
helpful
so
in that
fun
area.
because this can be applicable to any age group. So when I go into classrooms, I can tailor it to each age group, where high schoolers will probably talk more about college and what after high school looks like. But second graders, they can think to the sky. I just did a second grade or a first grade classroom visit where I had them draw what they wanted to be when they grew up. And someone was drawing Batman, someone was drawing a nurse, and it was just this wide variety. But it's so inspirational because these kids don't have all of the pressures that you have when you're growing up of, well, that's not realistic, and are you sure you can do that? That's not really within like your skill set. And we get knocked down a peg when really we should be inspired to be whoever we want to be, because that's our passion.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. And and I like the part that you have not just your opportunities in school and the community, but also the podcast as well as the journal. So, if you are a more vocal person, comfortable to talk to, tons of people in terms of your listeners, you've got that outlet. If you just want to journal, and if you're more of an introvert and just like to kind of keep it to yourself, but still dream big and have passions, I think you definitely, um, reach a lot of people through both of these avenues.
Yeah, that's really the goal at the end of the day, is to be able to inspire at least one person in the room. And so in order to do that, you need to put yourself in those different situations. So being on this podcast is really ideal for me because we can, reach as many people, and maybe this message might touch someone right at the right time, or later in their lives too. They might remember this conversation. And that's why Living Life Limitless is just so vital now, because so many people are struggling with mental health. It's also it's just a really good outlet for people to be like, yeah, I do deserve to live my life the way that I want to live it, and live it limitless.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You mentioned kind of the struggles that you went through, as growing up and everything with your grandparents. Did that inspire you to get into the type of research that you're doing? I know it's not I guess the same thing, but did that inspire you to get into the sciences?
Absolutely. So my grandparents started struggling when I was in high school, and I grew up in a single parent household. So they were very much the idol of a marriage for me too, and they were the people that I looked to besides my mom. And so for me, seeing them struggle in the ways that they did with dementia and Alzheimer's, where their personalities were shifting, they weren't people that I used to know, but their flesh was still there. It was like losing them twice. And so going through that in high school, in such a developmental part of my life, I figured that no one else should have to go through what I'm going through. So I switched my major when I applied to college from elementary education, ironically enough, to biochemistry, because, well, at the time, I didn't really know what biochemistry was, but I knew I wanted to do the sciences. So why not try biology and chemistry at the same time was my thinking as a 17-year-old. But that's why I ultimately switched to biochemistry, was because I wanted to be someone who could cure Alzheimer's disease. And then, of course, when I was going through all those losses in my life, my grades went down, and I realized that getting a PhD probably wasn't for me. I was ready to be done with school about 2.5 years in. So I looked at my path, and I discovered that I could graduate a semester early because of all the good work I had done in high school. And so that's what I did. I tried a few different career paths at first, but then I ultimately am now at Mayo Clinic, where I work with neurology research. So I'm still in that vein of research, just a different way than what I originally thought. Instead of being in the lab, I'm actually facilitating the research with the patients, and I'm the filter between the doctor and the patient. So I get to listen to the patients, see how they're feeling, really check in and get to know them on a personal level, while actually helping the doctors get the best treatment for them, whether that be research or not. So it's very much an advocate for both sides, and being just inspired and being able to share a glimmer of hope, as I like to say, to those patients who have these rare autoimmune diseases.
Yeah. Wow. Um, I'm a nurse practitioner, so I totally feel this on, what you're saying and everything. And my father actually, he did have Alzheimer's.
Oh,
Yeah, gosh, he passed away maybe 11 years ago of heart complications. But you're right. It's you definitely see, once you see that change in the personality, it
mm-hmm.
is just a shell. And yeah, you might have some glimmer of, I guess, glimmer of hope or glimmer of instances of where it's back
Yeah.
to being who they were, and you just enjoy that. You just enjoy and cherish those moments. So when you were talking, I'm like, yeah, I totally
Oh,
I totally feel that, because he was diagnosed when I was 21, 20. Yeah, I was young, in my early 20s. So it was, in that young age, even at 17, it's such an impact, and for me as an adult, I've made sure that every moment that I'm with friends, family, my husband, I'm not taking that for granted. I'm
yeah.
focusing on them because I want to be able to say, well, I regret spending enough time with him or
Mm-hmm.
her, or whoever. But
Yeah.
um, going back to what you're doing with the research, I think it's so needed, because so many of these patients who do have these rare autoimmune diseases, again, have a story to tell, and they need someone to tell it to. And I think you're in the absolute best position to help them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so too. It's really it's just a cool place to be, because when you're sitting in the patient room, they're in their most vulnerable position, trying to figure out what's going on with them, and only so many people understand. And Mayo Clinic, especially, people come from all across the nation to seek care. And so being able to be a part of their journey and just be the smile that they needed after a really tough conversation is just a blessing, truly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, yes, learning the diagnosis, trying to figure out the treatment, and then all those medical terms, combined too. They're like, what was just said? Can someone, explain that to me in layman's terms? So, yeah, I think that is such a gift. It's such a blessing for you to be there for those families who are definitely going through something difficult. Yeah. Um, So I know you mentioned about the pageant coming up in June, and we talked about planning and everything. So what's on your calendar in terms of platform promotion or awareness, and or just other community service appearance activities?
This stuff is so much fun to be able to do. I feel like every weekend I get to do something different. So I've really been prioritizing community service, putting myself in situations that I might not like or like am comfortable with, but putting myself out there to talk to other people, being a little bit nerdy and sciencey. Sometimes I can be introverted. So I put myself on blast and I get put in a room, kind of by myself, where I need to approach other people and be approachable. So that's really been on my list of things to do, is get into a room full of people and just, get to know people, let them get to know me and share my message. But more importantly, I've been in classrooms, which is really fun. I have a Limitless workshop that we go through, again, tailored to different ages, so that we can, maximize the time that we have together and really leave an impact throughout the rest of their lives. Just a little phrase that they might pick up and think about is really cool to be able to deliver. Otherwise, I'm teaching a faith formation class, so that's been really fun, kind of unrelated to the sash and crown, but just being able to be in a room of second graders and let them know that they're loved and appreciated every week is just, it's so fun to get to know them and put myself again in a situation that I get to be a teacher and a different side of myself, but also learn from them at the same time too.
Awesome. Awesome. So I know you've been, you crowned Miss Midwest. What is it? October? Maybe about 2 months, 3 months with
Yeah.
the crown. What has been your favorite appearance so far?
Oh gosh. Uh, this is so tough. I've been having so much fun. That first grade class that I mentioned was part of that. But another thing that I did, I love doing golf fundraisers for scholarship. So I put on another golf fundraiser. And it's just a really fun way to incorporate one of my favorite hobbies into something else that I'm doing. So we bring together teams and do a scramble and raise a bunch of money for scholarship. We all have a good time, get to know each other. So that was the third one that I put on, and we raised over $700 for a scholarship for that program in just a nice afternoon. And it was just so much fun to be able to do that. But that's one of my favorite things, and a little inspiration for the title holders that might be listening to this. Step outside the box, do something new, because it is just so worth it, and it's so fun when you can pull a hobby into what you're doing with your sash and crown. Just to be able to do something new and innovative is always something that I'm striving to do.
Oh yeah, I mean, definitely doing what you know, what you feel comfortable and what you have fun with is always a great way to start any type of event, fundraiser,
Mm-hmm.
and then I think it just kind of builds up your confidence to
Yeah.
reach out and do something totally out of the box, totally not related to who you are, what you like to do, but you just kind of want to see, oh, I wonder if I could
Yeah.
do this, if I could have this event go
Yeah. And
smoothly.
then networking too is super cool. You get to meet different people in different career paths, and they might have ideas for you. They might just know someone that will open a door for you. So it's always worth being in those situations and getting to meet new people.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, what are some of the lessons that, and we'll do it vice versa, that your career has brought to you for your pageantry journey?
My career has definitely taught me more empathy and patience, where I might walk into a patient room and they might not want to talk to me at all, or they'll be excited and they want to get to know me. So really being able to be flexible in those conversations and realizing what they need at the time versus sitting down and doing my job, which sounds a little funny, but for me, when I walk into a patient room, I want to be there for what they need. If they want me to get to the point because they have another appointment in 15 minutes, I will snap through that. But if they want to talk and have a little bit more counseling, or even just not think about their diagnosis for a little bit and they want to know something about me, I have this really cool phone case. And so sometimes my
Oh,
patients pick up that I'm a title holder and we talk about that. And it's just something that gets their mind off of themselves for a minute. And then we can form that connection and then move on from there. So it's almost salesy at a point, but it's also just being empathetic and reaching what they need at a point.
yeah.
So for as far as being a title holder, it's also, when you're in a classroom, when you're in a nursing home doing a visit, or wherever you end up being empathetic and realizing that it's not about you is super powerful.
Yeah. As you were saying that, I was thinking, you mentioned, some people want to hear your story. Other people are limited by time and
Yeah.
appointments. And it's almost like kind of when you approach judges. I don't know how they do it in the Miss America. It's been a long time for me, but in the systems that I've been in, it's more of a panel. So you've got 3 or 5 judges in front of you, and you've got the ones who really are interested, who make eye contact, who smile.
Yeah.
Then of course you have the ones that are really serious in their documentation or just can barely look up. So yes, you have to be
Yeah.
adaptable, to your judges as well.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of funny. Okay, so we talked about lessons learned from pageantry you bring into your career, I believe. So let's do the opposite way. I think I've totally confused myself. Anyway, so whatever question I asked you earlier, let's flip it.
Yeah.
Um, so yes.
So I would say from being in my crown and sash, I've learned more that I need to stand up for myself, I would say, because we're perceived as, a pretty face, that we don't have a whole lot of intelligence behind the crown and the sash and the sparkly things. And so I've definitely been in those situations. So in my job, that's definitely helped me because I work with doctors too. And so these neuroscientists are way above my level of intelligence, but I also have to be assertive when it comes to protocols and when it comes to rules and regulations and patient safety, saying, well, I don't know if the patient is actually interested, in being that voice for the patient and having a conviction and a confidence about it while not being disrespectful, if you will. So respecting their authority over me and their intelligence, and that they are the doctor or the principal investigator on the study, but also being able to be like, well, this is how research actually does it, because they might not know the rules. They have a lot to take care of. They have patients' lives to take care of, and staff in the lab, and they just have a lot of moving parts. So bringing in that empathy, but also advocating for what you need to, is super important for either job, because you always have to advocate for yourself as a title holder as well. If you want something a certain way, or if you're not being treated the right way, or you just get into different situations where you need to be an advocate for yourself and protect yourself.
Yeah. I've had my share of somewhat difficult doctors and trying to advocate for my patients. I definitely feel you. I feel you in that respect. But you're right. We do, and what you do need to respect, like you said, their authority, their intelligence.
Yeah.
But right, you need to stick to the guidelines and protocols and stick up for your patients. So I definitely think pageantry will definitely help, or has helped, I'm assuming, in your career, because you have to say, tell the judges who you are, and this is what you believe and this is what you stand for. So a lot of practice there. So.
Yes.
Well, okay. So, this has been such a great conversation. I'm so glad that I've got to know you a little bit more, Morgan. So tell me again where and when the Miss Minnesota pageant will be and where we can follow you.
Yeah, so we work with Pageants Live. So if you have a subscription to Pageants Live, you'll be able to see the Miss Minnesota competition in June. The prelim nights will be on the 18th and the 19th, as long as things stay the same before we get to that point. And finals will be on June 20th.
Wow. Wow. Okay. And do you have a pageant page or a personal page on
Yes.
social
So
media?
I have an Instagram handle of Miss Midwest MN, because I'm in Minnesota, and I believe it ends with 2025. So at Miss Midwest MN 2025.
Gotcha. Awesome. And is there anything else that you'd like to say to our listeners before we say goodbye?
I think we've got a really good variety of advice in this podcast. So if at any time someone needs to reach out to me, I have an open inbox. So just reach out if you liked this episode. If you have any questions, you want to follow up on her story or demonstration or living life limitless, I am more than happy to share and give advice if you wanted.
Yeah. Awesome. Again, thank you, Morgan, so much. And we'll be talking to you soon. We'll be keeping tabs on this pageant and watching you in June. Of
Thank you so much for having me.
course. Of course. You have a good day.